How would the Los Angeles Chargers be the biggest threat here to the Kansas City Chiefs? Well, Tommy, let's break it down from some reasons why maybe they can overtake the Chiefs for the top of the AFC West in a very loaded, very stacked division here. And I think it really starts here with quarterback. And I want to start things off by prefacing this on looking at Justin Herbert, where he has been. Now, against the Kansas City Chiefs, this is according to our good friends over there at StatMuse. He has a passer rating of 108.3 with 1,130 yards, 10 touchdowns to 2 interceptions thrown in 4 total games against Kansas City. And in those 4 games, the Chargers and Chiefs are tied 2-2 there. So the balance is there, and they've led some competitive football matchups. Even going back to last year, Thursday Night Football, the 4th down game where everyone's just going for it on 4th down, and the Chargers missed out on so many opportunities by not scoring. And for some reason, I've always thought to myself, like, hey, the Chargers right now offensively, they have everything that they need, in my opinion, to match up really well and to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs inside the AFC West. What other factors should we be looking at here if the Los Angeles Chargers are to be the biggest threat against the Chiefs in 2022?
I think for me, when I look at things like the offense is the side that I feel the most confident in, because we feel like they are a very a top tier team. When you've got Austin Eckler, who just had the best season of here, I believe pushing 20 touchdowns, if you remember, serves me correct. You've got to figure out what you're going to do at tight end, but I think Donald Parham, he's looking to be potentially going to be fighting for that number 1 spot alongside with Gerald Everett, kind of taking over from what Jared Cook had. You've got 2 of the best receivers on the outside with Keenan Allen and a Mike Williams. The number 3, whether they do end up going with a receiver in the NFL draft, like what Ian was talking about during his mock draft for the team, or they kind of stick with the Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton. I feel they can compete with any team in the NFL when it comes to putting up points on the board. Where we saw the improvement really on this team was a lot was on the secondary, with the secondary level. Bringing in J.C. Jackson, the number 1 corner, he was the biggest addition that we've seen so far for this entire team. And there's a projected move. Hey, now you can move Asante Samuel, who looked pretty darn good as a rookie, but just suffered those 2 concussions late in the season. You can leave him on the outside, or you can bring him now inside the slot if you wanted to. We've talked about with the Los Angeles Chargers draft pick. Hey, look, if they want to move and try to make a shot, and maybe like a Derek Stingley Jr. or maybe a Booth coming out of Clemson, they want to go for another cornerback, you can move Asante Samuel Jr. into that slot and still have 3 top-tier corners that can match up with all these other firepower that's in this division. So to me, when you also add in when they bring in Khalil Mack to pair off with Nick Bosa, with Joey Bosa. This is one of the best 1-2 punches in terms of rushing in the NFL, in terms of trying to generate pressure. You've got a decent pair of linebackers back there. You've got some good safeties. To me, this is a team that just from top to bottom is about as complete as it gets. You throw in someone else maybe a potential another number 2, number 3 corner in there, add in a couple weapons on offense throughout the draft in a very heavy wide receiver draft. The Chargers are sitting here in phenomenal shape.
I think a lot depends, too, on their NFL draft stature, like you said, in terms of number 3 wide receiver between any of those guys. I know that there were some Chargers fans in the offseason who were saying they were okay with letting Mike Williams go because of Josh Palmer. And I was like, who thinks that's a great idea?
No.
That was a terrible idea. Luckily, they didn't listen to the fans, and they decided to re-sign Mike Williams, who is unbelievable. He and Keenan Allen are very special.
And that's nothing against Josh Palmer either. That's nothing against him. That's just Mike Williams. When he is at his top level, when he's healthy and everything else, he is a very dynamic threat in the NFL. We saw towards the beginning of last season, Mike Williams was looking like the number 1 receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers. He brings them that verticality to this offense, which you need when you have a quarterback who can extend the play, get outside the pocket, and still hit someone 60 yards down the field like Justin Herbert can. You need that field stretcher. Where Keenan Allen is the master of separation at different phases, including the mid phase of the route. Mike Williams is able to just go down and just get a ball and go up and get it to if he needs to. That's what he brings. You've got Palmer in a good situation. You don't want to have to force him to take over that kind of role. It's better when you have the extra depth, especially when you know, hey, look, Mike Williams, sometimes he gets injured. Hamstrings have been a bit of an issue for him in his career. You've got someone else who can kind of step up and take that role. I feel way better about having Palmer step in rather than having to be the guy from day one.
I think that's a fair point, too. And the hope is that Austin Eckler can remain healthy consistently throughout the season as well. For him, he dealt with a variety of different soft tissue injuries. But you know what? That guy is a freak in nature. He is a machine, and I imagine
pound for pound, he might be the strongest person in the NFL.
Dude, he's ridiculous. 1-arm pull-ups. That dude has got legitimate core strength there. But, I think a wild card factor, if the Chiefs are going to be dethroned here by the Los Angeles Chargers, will have to be on the defensive side of the ball. You mentioned the addition of Khalil Mack opposite of Joey Bosa. We talk about J.C. Jackson being added there. There's Jerry Tillery on the defensive interior. I know Chargers fans have high expectations for him, and he needs to perform this upcoming season. But then they go out in free agency, and they also add Sebastian Joseph Day from the Los Angeles Rams. So they're kind of beefing up that defensive line there alongside with that pass rush. this will be a factor if they're going to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs inside the AFC West. But with that said, there are a multitude of other options inside the AFC West as well when it comes to trying to dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs.